All right, guys. Welcome back to this episode of the podcast. I'm your host, Alec Mountain, and today I am joined by a very special guest, Lashawn Merritt.
Alec.
Pumped to
Glad,
be here, man. Pumped
glad
that
to
you
be.
made it out to Orange County.
Glad to
and
be here.
you escaped the LA craziness and madness.
All right. No, excited, man. Beautiful day. Tuesday.
Hell yeah. So, Lashawn, I'm trying to figure out the best way to introduce you. So, when people say, actually, this is an interesting question for you.
Mm-hmm.
If somebody were to say, who is Lashawn Merritt, what would you tell them?
I would say I'm a kid from Portsmouth, Virginia, son of Brenda and Owen Merritt. In the first chapter of my career, I got in a lane, literally, and took it to the highs of the high.
Yeah.
I chose something, I noticed something in me early and maximized it. And I'm a good person.
Yeah. How did everything start? What was your childhood like growing up?
So
Where are you from, by the way?
I'm from Portsmouth, Virginia.
Uh-huh.
I grew up playing baseball and football.
Yeah.
I was always the fastest in both sports,
Yeah.
right? And mom taught at my elementary school.
Mm-hmm.
She ended up teaching at my middle school and high school. But when I was a kid, I was fortunate enough to have a mentor from the third grade till about the seventh grade. He was my baseball and football coach. And his niece was married to Bruce Smith, which is a Hall of Famer, NFL guy from the area. So I was able to go from like the hood to these multi-million-dollar mansions about 30 minutes away. They come back to the hood. Then once every month and a half. So ever since I was younger, I saw something different than what I grew up in.
Yeah.
But I had great home training. I grew up learning all about respect, the whole I have to do what I have to do in order to do what I want to do, because my mom taught at my school.
Yeah.
And if I didn't get the grades or whatever, I wasn't able to do the extracurricular activities. And I enjoyed baseball and football. So, yeah, it started there. I was always fast, but I didn't know about the sport of track and field until I got to high school. I was in 11th grade, and the football coach was the track coach. And he came to us and said he needed someone to run the 400.
Yeah.
And we knew the 400 was the hardest event in the track, so nobody wanted to run it. And then I said, I'll run it. And the rest is history, man. I ran the first time. I ran it with ease, and I won. And I started training and growing interest in it, and ended up getting a full scholarship and turning pro my freshman year. There's a lot to the story, but I didn't start running the event until my junior year in high school.
And that's when it started, and that's when you were like, hey, I have a gift, or somebody recognized you had a gift, or you had a gift. What did you, was it a combination of both?
It was. I was fortunate enough to have people around me who constantly poured life into me and was positive about things around me.
Yeah.
So when they saw I was winning and I wasn't putting that much training in, and my times lined up against the best in I would say in the world, but the best in the U.S. in high school, they said, man, you can really make something out of this.
You were best in like the whole country?
Yeah.
How did you rank in the 400 meter in high school compared to the rest?
So my junior year, I won my state meet. It was my first year running it. I didn't go past states. My senior year, I won everything from the district, the regionals, state, junior nationals, nationals, and then world juniors. So my senior year in high school, I was able to go to Grosseto, Italy, and compete for the juniors, and I won 3 golds. It was the best under 19, and I was 17, and went there and dominated.
Dang.
Yeah, man. And that's when I went to East Carolina, and East Carolina was an Adidas school. The track team was Adidas. and I was wearing Nike in high school.
Yeah.
And the track coach said, if you come here, we'll switch the whole program to Nike. Right? So it was a couple guys who were supposed to go.
Yeah.
I was the only one who got in.
Yeah.
They switched the whole program to Nike. 3 months later, I turned pro, gave up my eligibility, and started running for Nike. Yeah. There's a story behind that, too.
What's the story behind that?
So the story in pro was, so just rewinding a little bit. Out of high school, I was the number one recruit. I could have went anywhere. I had an older brother who was 5 years younger than me. He was the type of brother who would give me extra money if I hit a home run in a baseball game when I was younger, or $5 if I made a touchdown.
Yeah.
And he got murdered his freshman year in college. He was a freshman at Shaw University. So he never got a chance to see me run. So when it came to picking a school, I didn't want to go that far away from home. He was the oldest child, and East Carolina was 3 hours away.
Yeah.
So it was just close enough that my parents could come see me if they wanted to, or I could travel back home.
Yeah.
So East Carolina wasn't a powerhouse, but track and field wasn't about, for me, going to a powerhouse school, because in high school, it was only 4 of us on the team. So I wasn't used to a team.
And it didn't really matter either, because it was about the time that you got. It wasn't like, hey, I'm going to Ohio State so I can compete in the championship. It's a whole different game, right? It's more about just that time, so that way it doesn't matter where you went to school, right? If you got the right time, you could compete at a high level.
Absolutely. So when freshman year at East Carolina, I'm about 3 or 4 meets in. I ran 3 or 4 competitions, and I got invited to Arkansas, the Tyson Invitational. It was a meet where it was all professionals, and I was the only collegiate athlete in the race.
Yeah.
And I won. Gun went off. I remember I was in outside lane. I was a little nervous before, too, because I was a freshman and everybody were pro. Like, these people were running to feed their family, so I knew they wasn't going to let me just win. We're in the back warming up. I was a little nervous, but I knew my times weren't that far off. It's an outside lane, couldn't see anybody, which was an advantage probably, because if I saw him, I probably would have been a little freaked out.
Yeah.
Gun went off, and I just went for it, man. I think I led the race start to finish. Beat everybody who Nike and Adidas were paying to run that event. About 3 weeks later, Nike called me and said, look, we want to give you this contract. You just beat everybody we are paying to compete. We want to give you this multi-million-dollar contract for you to give up your eligibility, but we'll continue to pay for whatever college you want to go to. So for me, it was a win-win deal. I was still able to go to college for free, and I was getting paid to run track, to take my clothes off, train, and run in a circle.
Yeah.
That's how one of my coaches at the end of my career explained it. He said, man, you don't do nothing. All y'all do is take y'all clothes off and run around in a circle. I say, bro, wait. We do a lot more than that. Like, I'm out here throwing up and cramping and everything. There's a little more to that. But yeah, man, that's what it happened. After that, I was a pro. I had to take life. As a professional, I was 18 years old. And it came fast. But luckily, I had people around me, the coach I had at the time, and my parents and everybody made it so that I could just focus on training. So that was a blessing.
So you gave up your eligibility. Is that college eligibility?
College eligibility.
Okay, so it's basically like you can continue going to school. You can't compete collegiately, but you can compete on a professional level.
Right.
So you smoke those people in that race. You're a freshman, right?
Right.
So what year is that?
That's 2005.
Okay, so what was the process of what happened between 2005 going up to the 2008 Olympics?
2005, okay, so I turned pro. I was still at East Carolina. I stayed there and finished out the year. I was just training there. But the next year, I moved back home to Virginia. I started taking classes at ODU. ODU didn't have a track So I started taking classes at Norfolk State.
So you built a track.
No. Tracks are expensive too. But ODU and Norfolk State is only like 10 minutes away.
Yeah.
So I said, you know what, I'm going to just go over here and train over here.
Yeah.
My first year out was 2005. I stayed home. No, wait. My first year out, 2005, I stayed at East Carolina.
Yeah.
Then I moved back to Virginia 2006.
Mm-hmm.
Started taking classes. 2006 was an off year in the sport of track and field. You still had a series of meets throughout the year, but there wasn't like a major championship.
Yeah.
Major championship, the world championship was 2007, the year before the Olympics. So within the sport, it's a big deal. 2007 world championships, I went in, I was probably number 4 in the world. But I knew I can get a top spot. As far as points-wise and time-wise, over a series of meets, I was probably number 4 in the world. I was probably number 2 in the world, because I probably got second at the Nationals. But 2007 World Championships was the first time I ran 43 seconds in the 400. Jeremy Warner was dominating at that time. He was a white guy from Texas. And that event was normally dominated by a black guy. Yeah. And Jeremy's coach was...
So he underwent some kind of surgery to make him more...
No, right? It was just one of those... anomalies where it was like, man, he's dominating like the 400. Yeah. But he was an amazing guy. His agent was Michael Johnson, who had the world record in that event. And his coach was Michael Johnson's coach. So he pretty much had the history of the event there. Yeah. So that's not taking anything away from him, because they've coached several athletes. But he had the code. I was trying to crack the code. Yeah. I was trained by a guy at Norfolk State. We didn't know much about the sport or the event. We kind of grew up. He was a coach, but we grew up looking at so much film so we can learn together, right? But 2007, I got second at World Championships. Yeah. The first time I went under 44 seconds. And after that race, I said, Olympics next year. I'm going to win Olympics next year. Beijing. 2008. I said, man, I'm going to win Olympics next year. That summer, I trained like crazy.
What does that look like, training like crazy for the sport?
Training like crazy looks like 5 a.m. morning runs. It looks like crazy strict diets. It depends on what phase of the season you're in also. There's been times where I've literally had a session, had a couple hours to take a nap and eat, and then got up for a second session. And it feels like your body is moving, but your soul or your energy is dragging behind you. Yeah. I've experienced literally like I'm up moving, going through the motions, but if like I close my eyes for a second, it's like I'm behind, but I still am so present, executing everything, going towards what I got to go to. I put myself like under mental stress, physical stress. There's been times in training where if you gave me $1,000 to get up and run to that wall, I couldn't. I built up that much lactic acid in my muscles where I'm like seeing stars. It gets crazy. And it gets that crazy because, not because I'm training hard, but the training is with so much intention. Yeah. Every rep in the gym, for me anyway, I mean, people do it different ways, but I was the man in the gym and on the track, and I had to know I was the man when I got into those spaces. When I was in the gym, I couldn't work out like I was the 5th or 6th place guy. I had to work out like I was the top guy. Yeah. Every rep mattered, which meant a connection of the mind and the muscle on every rep, which is a little draining than just moving weight. Yeah. When you get to the track, everything's with intention. You're not Every day is not a great day, but every day I'm bringing my best, and my best starts before I get there. It's within the preparation and getting prepared for the day. And then in training, every step matters. The angle of the step, connecting the mind and the body is draining, is taxing. And then the rest and recovery is just as important as the training. So there's no going and treating yourself because you had a crazy, exhausting day. It's you get back, rest, drill, stretch, watch film, get proper sleep, and then get up and do it all over again.
Yeah.
Food, sometimes the same foods over and over is bland. I didn't mind, but these things I didn't mind, right? But that's that training like crazy. You saw the 3% body fat on my Instagram. You see that? You just took that. I remember that I was in Texas at MJP, Michael Johnson facility. He's the former world record holder.
That's what you were just talking about, right? Jeremy's
is his
coach. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And when I was there, the coaches were telling me, and they would tell me this around the world.
Yeah.
I didn't believe it while I was in it. But then you hear something so many times, you start to believe it.
Yeah.
That my body awareness, like the connection of the body, well, my body awareness is top tier. Some of the trainers and doctors around the world never seen anybody who can connect the mind and the body and know the body as well as I do.
What does that look like to really connect the mind and the body? Like, how does that translate into like the real world? Because that sounds like it's amazing, but it kind of, when we talk about mind and body, that can often be like a spiritual topic that, you hear about in podcasts and books and how one influences the other and thus forth. What did that specifically look like as, a track and field athlete?
So connecting of the mind and the body for me was, one, in the sport, I was even able to develop a mental clock. I would do training sessions where I would have interval work. I maybe have 4 or 5 or 6 200 meters or 150. And I could tell my trainer what time I ran before he told me. It sounds a little weird, and it sounds like
down to like the millisecond. You
almost
knew
I
what
would
you
be
ran.
like 2/10 off.
Yeah.
At best, 2/10. Sometimes I would be spot on. I wasn't counting in my head, but the rhythm that's still connecting something, right?
Yeah.
In the sport. From a body standpoint, that connection was understanding how the different parts of the body are supposed to move. Well, first off, it goes back to the gym with strengthening the parts of the body that mattered. We didn't do a lot of bench press because we didn't use a lot of chest. There was the parts that mattered we strengthened, and while strengthening those with intention, every rep I was locking in how to use that muscle, how to fire that muscle. If I'm doing leg curls or pull-ups, whatever the case.
Yeah.
Because it came down times to races where I had to switch the muscle group that I was using at the time. We could talk about that later.
During the race?
During the race.
Oh.
Depending on if I'm in oxygen depth or different parts of the race, I use different deals. We could talk about that, though.
Yeah.
But the connection also happened because when in 2005, I got introduced to quantum neurology, which is a laser and going through the body in a certain position, which is almost like running. We will go through a running position and clear out anything in the body slow with the laser to connect the mind and the body slow, but through the nervous system and through chiropractic care. And I had a chiropractor that I took with me everywhere. I was always in his office. There was a lot of questions asked. And there was just a lot of paying attention.
Yeah.
I think that's what it is. A lot of paying attention and being intentional with the things I was doing while I was using my body.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
So it's 2008. Like, walk us through what that was like getting to Beijing all the way up to like that race.
Okay, 2008, 7, 10. 2008 was an interesting year.
Yeah.
I was number 2 in the world coming into this season.
Number 2 in the world at the 400 meter.
I was number 2 in the world.
All right, so to put
400
this
meters.
into perspective, like you're like the second fastest person. Well, you became the fastest, but coming into it, you were the second fastest person on Earth, basically, for that specific thing. And you also told me that you actually beat Usain Bolt in the 400 meter, right?
Yeah, early in my seasons, early in my career, before he started running the 100 and 200, he ran some 400s.
And yeah,
early on. But when he switched, he found his stride, man, and took over.
So back to Beijing. So you get to Beijing. What happened?
So before Beijing, there's Olympic trials, which
Yeah.
is usually 6 weeks before the actual games.
Yeah.
You go there, there's 3 rounds. Each round, they cut and make the amount of participants smaller until they get to a final round of 8. And the top 3 in that final round make the team.
Right.
So Olympic trials 2008, I won. And got to Beijing. It was my first Olympic experience. In my brain, I said, I'm going to take it like another race. I had already beat everybody in the field.
Yeah.
Right? But that really doesn't matter because anything can happen on any given day.
Yeah.
So I was confident that I knew who I was running against. I was confident that I had beat them before, so I could beat them again.
Yeah.
I was confident in my preparation, and I took it a round at a time. I probably got there a week before competition to get acclimated to the time and the weather.
Yeah.
That's that whole time where they were concerned about the smog around, so
Yeah.
they shut down factories and took cars off the road.
Yeah.
I remember getting there, and it wasn't that bad. It wasn't that bad. We trained before. I was training well. At this point, it's down to like fine tuning.
Yeah.
It's so much fine tuning. It's almost Formula One getting ready to put the car actually on the track.
Yeah.
Like everything matters. We're looking at film of training, every step, the breathing pattern, the sleep pattern, the food during this time, because this is the pinnacle of the sport. This can determine contracts, notoriety, dreams, all the hard work paying off. And I was one of the ones who could actually win and be at the top of the podium. So it was serious for me, man.
Yeah.
I remember Olympic Village was cool, the best in the world. I did the opening ceremony.
Yeah.
I shouldn't have, because we were standing for like 9 hours in some Chuck Taylors, and my feet were killing me afterwards. Everybody were complaining about their feet hurting afterwards.
Yeah.
But it was an amazing experience.
Yeah.
Best in the world, everybody from every sport, because in the opening ceremony, there's every country, but hours before, the U.S. will be over here, another country will be there, but every sport. So we were able to mingle with the basketball players and boxers and all the other sports. That was cool. My first round, I feel like I dominated. I handled it well. I remember getting off the track, going straight to look at film to just see how I handled it, how it was, making sure I ate and stretched afterwards and got the proper rest for the next day. It's always the next day a little bit faster. We plan it so that the run is a little bit faster than the day before. Because now we're chopping down to get to the final 8. And I handled that well. Same process. Got off the track, looked at film, figured out who was going to be in the final. Got to the final. Now, before I even did my first round, I studied the track. Days before, I'll get to go to the track, walk around. Tracks are built different. Sometimes the straightaways are longer than the curves on certain ones. I needed to know where the marks were, how long the straightaways were compared to the curves, which lane I was in, who was in the other lanes in the first round. I just needed to know the course. I don't know if everybody do that, but it made it easier. So when I got to certain spots, I knew exactly how many meters I had to run and when I needed to shift gears. So got to the final, man. I had already known the track. I'd already made love to it. I ran on it 2 times before, knew exactly where my zones were. It was just a matter of going through the zones a little faster this time because this is it.
Yeah.
This is it. Like, this is it. And this was my first one. I thought it was going to be life-changing.
Yeah.
It didn't end up being life-changing, but I thought it was going to be, right?
In what ways did you think it was going to be life-changing?
I don't know. I just thought 2008, it was a recession.
Yeah.
2000 and Olympics in the U.S. in track and field, it is a big deal, but not as big as other sports. And it's not as big in different countries.
Yeah.
Like, different countries, it's like it may be the number 1 or number 2 sport in that country.
Yeah, because they can't compete on basketball
Right.
and these
or,
other sports
or football
football,
or baseball or tennis or you slap me, I slap you. It's a lot of things before it comes.
Power slap.
Yeah, before track and field sometimes. Right. Thumb wrestle. Right. So, but anyway, I was training to, not for everything else, it was just to bring my best right now.
Yeah.
It's time to execute. It's one race left. When the gun go off, there's no turning back. Everybody's yelling in the stands. It was go time.
Yeah.
It was go time, man. Thinking about it now is almost like, got me like, all right, I remember that. We'll get to
what
the
were you
call
feeling? So it's funny, I bring this up because we were talking about, people are asking you about the emotions that you felt during that time, and you were like, well, I was trying to feel like as calm as possible. You're more like stoic in a way, right? Let's talk more about that.
At that level, being able to compartmentalize is so important. You know, so it's just all about what's in front of you.
Yeah.
And for me, there's so much visualization that goes on for me. I ran the race in my head. I can close my eyes right now and
do you do that
feel
a lot?
myself. Yeah.
You ran the race in your head, like leading up to it
Yeah.
a lot?
It's times in training I would close my eyes and hit the stopwatch and just visualize myself going around the track. I may even lean and move and hit it and get close, very close to the time I want to run.
Yeah.
You know, so a lot of that throughout my years. So going to the track, I had already known how fast I needed to go through the zones. I had studied my races before. It was just executing what I had put in my head already and what I knew I could do. This is the time to lay it out. If I close my eyes, I see myself being champion. I done hit the watch. I can feel it. Now I just have to execute. But there's so much that can go wrong. There's a flinch at the start. There's a cramp. There's so much, and there's no go back. There's no second play.
So do you just tune that out?
You just tune it out,
you
man.
You just tune it out.
You just like anything that can go wrong, you can't think about. Yeah. It's important. There's so many positive affirmations and self-talk. That's why in track and field, that positive inner voice is so important. As in life, I feel that's why it's good for life. That positive inner voice where not only in competition, but in training where you're on the track and your coach blow the whistle and tell you have 30 seconds or 45 seconds to get up and run another interval. But that interval is going to require you to put in the same amount of effort that you put in that last one. But now you're a certain amount of percentage more depleted. But you got to get up and tell yourself get up. And there's no patting on the butt or whatever. You got to get yourself up.
Yeah.
And the defense in track and field is quitting. You can quit. You quit mid-race. You quit mid-workout. There's no like, and they also say it's a physical a contact sport on certain levels because the amount of force that's applied into the ground and the shock that comes back up. There's been times I left training, feel like I got hit by a bus, bro. Like really, like I'm like, oh my gosh, cramping on the way home. But it's all about the preparation was there.
Yeah.
So that final back to 2008, I was excited.
Mm-hmm.
One, because the rounds went well.
Mm-hmm.
Like I knew my times. I looked at everybody else. I had ran my times easier than everybody else, and they were better than everybody else's. So going into a major championship, going to one of those competitions, you show up about 2 hours before.
Mm-hmm.
There's a practice field. You have a lot of people on a practice field. They're warming up. You get up, you do your drills, you get your body ready, you sit back down, get focused, get up, get some stretching, go through whatever you need to go through. Mm-hmm. Then they call you maybe 45 minutes, 400 to the first call room. Mm-hmm. Everybody get to this first one room. Mm-hmm. When then we're just sitting in there. Then maybe the TV screen, we're watching the meet go on.
Yeah.
So this is like all the horses are, and we're called quarter horses. The 400 is called the hardest event in track and field. Mm-hmm. Many will say that. Many will say the 400 is the hardest event in track and field.
Yeah.
One, because you're using two energy systems. You're maximizing an aerobic and anaerobic system. Yeah. But back to the bullpen. So it's call room. We're sitting in there. It's 8 men sitting in there.
What happens in there?
I'm one of the
Are people
youngest.
talking shit and stuff?
Yeah. So sometimes you have some that do. More of the jumpers talk more. They have more than one chance to actually jump. They get like 5 or 6 chances, so they're able to talk a little more and be a little more relaxed. With the sprinters, it's usually like silent.
Yeah.
Because it's like everything's coming down to, especially like the 100 meters sometimes, they have a lot of adrenaline, but they're still like, their biggest thing is to catch this gun at some moment, just like this. But the quarter milers, we're some horses walking around. When I first came out, I was a young one though. Uh-huh. And
22.
I was about 22. Everybody else were older, had families, so I knew the severity of it. Mm-hmm. Like, yo, if they beat me, they really want this. Like, they have families, they have rent. I'm only 18. I don't have a lot of responsibility, or I'm still young. Mm-hmm. I don't have a lot of responsibilities yet, but I'm in this, and I'm here for a reason.
Yeah, of course.
And gun go off. No, wait, let me go back. So before I would step on any track, I would say a prayer. Say a prayer for my brother, to my brother. I point at the sky, hit the track, walk on the track.
So that was, going back a little bit, this was your main motivation to become an amazing, one of the world's best track and field athletes, was because your brother had this horrendous death and you wanted to run in his honor.
So at first, I didn't know what it was for. Yeah. The sport picked me when I was running it. When I first started running, I felt the ease to it, a calming sensation when I would run. Not run distance, but I would run and prepare for an event, and I knew I had to put the training in. Yeah. It became me being the best I could be in whatever I chose, and that's just what I was in at the time, because he wasn't on earth to maximize anything else. Mm-hmm. So when I think about, was it to be the best in the world at that or whatever, I really didn't think of it that way. Mm-hmm. I just was already in that position to be that. Yeah. But the dream and the work and the drive was just to put in work, because he's not able to put in any more work. Yeah. Yeah. Amazing. So that's how it became an inspiration. Like I said, it just happened to be in a lane, in a field, in a career where if I did put in the work my character allowed me to put in, the fruits and the results could be the best in the world. So I went for it, and I had people around me telling me that if I did this and I trained and I studied and I really took it serious, I could be the best in the world. So I just went for it.
Mm-hmm.
Sacrificed a lot, isolated a lot, learned a lot, continued to be coachable, stayed humble, stayed grounded, didn't get too high or too low over wins or losses, and just continued to want to improve. And with having the character of being able to fall in love with a process, I was in my lane. That was my world. I can do something over and over and over, and I don't really care about the recognition day to day. I never did. But if I can do something over and over and get a little bit better and feel myself getting better and take accountability, and when it all comes down to it, it's all on me. Mm-hmm. When the gun go off, now like any team, it's all on me. I love that for some reason. Mm-hmm. I don't know. I was never scared of that. I just, maybe because when I played team sport, they always sucked. So when I got into something, it was just me, and I could put something in. I'm like, okay, this is my thing now. So
nice.
It happened.
So what happened then when the gun went off? You say your prayer. So you walk out into.
I say my prayer before I get on the track, touch the track, start to walk to my lane. They introduce everybody. I see the crowd. I don't hear the crowd. Mm-hmm. I'm really just focusing on my zones, the first zone, second zone. Push a little harder than I did the day before. Be confident. The butterflies are there. At that point, I wasn't able to channel the butterflies. I learned to channel the butterflies later. But at that point, I can remember the butterflies being there, but I remember someone telling me use it as energy. I didn't know how to tap into that at first. Later on in my career, I learned that for myself on how to do it. Gun went off, man. I took off. I knew exactly where I needed to be, when I needed to be there. Not based on anybody else in the race, just based on this feeling and rhythm. Mm-hmm. Because it's you against the track. So you have this feeling and rhythm to know I need to hit 100 meters at this time. I need to hit 200 meters at 21.2. Now, 21.2 and 21.4 doesn't seem like a big difference. You probably can't even do that if you had a clock in your hand and got that close. But it's such a big difference on the track. So this feeling you have to have is like the fine lines. I got down the backstretch. I was stepping down the backstretch, man. I felt amazing. I knew where I needed to be. I knew how I needed to feel. My body was in tune. I had my chiropractic care. I prayed. I had people praying for me. So I felt great. I got around the curve, the second curve, so I'm going on the back stretch. I'm feeling good. I'm stepping, not thinking about anybody, just feeling one with the track and myself, and feeling like I have to think greatness in order to win this. There's no self-doubt I can even put in my head where I'm not going to win. Got around the back stretch. I got around the curve. I felt good. I knew exactly what to do 150 meters out. I was supposed to do a body check. So 150 meters out, which is the top of the curve, I'm making sure my body is in the best position to come off this curve. Not back, not too far forward, not here. And this is the part of the race when everything wants to fall apart. Things are about to fall apart in 50 meters if you don't check it right now. So there's a inner deal that you have to dial in, bring everything back close when it wants to fall apart, and get down this last home stretch, which is the critical zone, the part of the race where, let's say, the monkey jumps on your back or whatever the case. So it hurts right here. And this is the part of the race where the harder you try to run, the slower you're going to run.
Mm-hmm.
You got 100 meters to go. It's all about recruiting different muscle groups, running as pretty as possible, staying relaxed as possible, calm as possible, feeling the track, being so confident but not too competitive that you lose the basics.
Yeah.
And I went straight mechanics this last part of the race. 50 meters ago, I was so far in the lead, I looked at the Jumbotron and I know I'd won. I won, and I won by the largest margin in Olympic history.
It's like a second, right?
Yeah, a whole second, man. So
and that's a lot. You're saying 0.2 to 0.4. This is 5 times that.
Right.
Yeah.
All right, so I owned it from gun to finish, man. And when I finished, I felt so grateful. I knew that I could speak on how hard work would pay off.
Yeah.
There was a lot of things I could speak on of how I handled the preparation,
Yeah.
how I handled the moment, and took it like any other race, but prepared like it was the last race.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Great story. So since then, you've won 3 Olympic gold medals, and how many total gold medals?
So I won 3 Olympic golds and about 8 world championship golds.
Uh-huh.
So world championship is the year before and the year after an Olympic Games, which is, like I said, is huge in the sport of track and field.
Yeah.
The prize money, the contracts that's made off of world championship, the world championships. So within the sport, it's serious, the world championship, but general public know
The Olympics.
Olympics, yeah,
But the world championships are
just as important.
big.
Yeah.
Yeah, so 11 then total when we combine.
Probably 11, probably about 11, 12. I don't even really know.
Yeah.
I need to count. But it's up there. I had a lot of years of putting in work and sacrificing a lot and isolating and doing things a certain way that became a norm. But again, being a guy who fell in love with the process, the outcome just ended up being what it was. It was a lot of years.
How would you describe it all in one word?
How would I describe what? The career?
Yeah, all the championships, the preparation, the process.
I would say blessed. Blessed to be able to handle the preparation.
Mm-hmm.
Be blessed with the character. Be blessed with the DNA. Be blessed with the family that was around me, support.
Yeah.
Be blessed. I was blessed to have the gift,
Yeah.
to notice the gift, to be coachable. So I feel like all those things are blessings that I was able to recognize early,
Yeah.
have a drive and a purpose to see them and want to maximize them.
Yeah.
And that's what I did, a lot of sacrifice, but I feel like I was blessed, man.
Yeah.
They lined up the stars. I played the cards that was dealt to me, and my own card, the trump card, I got to really know, and that was really knowing myself. I had all these things around me in the universe that I was blessed with and set up for success. But if I didn't know myself, I probably wouldn't be able to use them like I did.
How do you know yourself so well?
I think through isolation. I mean, that's one of the things within the sport. I sacrificed a lot of being alone a lot.
Yeah.
And when I was alone a lot, there was a lot of self-talk, deep thought, looking at things, realizing how I handle things, what bothered me. So,
What personal issues do you think you had to overcome in order to perform the way that you did?
What personal issues did I had to overcome in order to perform the way I did? One would be the fact of maybe not feeling like I belonged because of just being from a small city kid from a inner city where growing up I would train in the school because we didn't have the right track to wear spikes in. My parents weren't athletes.
Yeah.
I didn't have this support of, and at some point it becomes stress, which I'm blessed. Didn't have the stress from my inner circle, and it was just support. But some people thrive off of parents being athletes and pushing them. I wasn't pushed.
Did you grow up with a dad at all?
Yeah.
Okay.
So I grew up, mom and dad.
Uh-huh.
Neither one of them were athletes.
Yeah. What was your relationship with them like growing up?
So great with both of them. I've never had a beating.
Yeah.
I never was a problem child, never been suspended from school.
Yeah.
My mom and dad were together, married for about 14 years. They separated when I was in elementary school, but my dad was 5 minutes around the corner.
Nice.
He was always at games, always supportive. To this day, I talk to both of them, if not every day, every other day.
Yeah.
So my mom's thing to me, ever since I played T-ball, was just go have fun. The
Yeah.
night before the Olympic Games, just go have fun. My dad's message to me all my life was, I come from a good root. I have an anointing over my life. I got good blood.
Ah. So your mom was just, hey, let go, be detached, have fun. But on your dad's side, his influence was more like, hey, you have something.
You
Like,
have
you're
something.
made for something.
Right.
So like that combination of, hey, I'm made for something, but your mom kind of taught you to maybe be a little less attached.
Right.
Which I think is a really powerful combination, honestly.
And my dad, even after the Olympics, my dad came and told me, man, you ain't seen nothing yet. That's a good job, son, but you ain't seen nothing yet. After, man, I would win world championships and Olympics, he would tell me the same thing. I love him to death. Boy, there's so much more for you. You ain't seen nothing that. This just setting you up for something greater. I'm like, all right, Pops, I got you. I appreciate it. Now, I'm going to go get back to work because this don't come that easy.
Yeah.
And he'll say stuff like, man, I'm glad I wasn't given that speed and that ability. Man, I wouldn't know what to do with it. I wouldn't know what to do with it. When I think of that, and he tell me that sometimes, right? When I think of that, I think about how blessed I am that it hit me. Because my dad is a little flamboyant. He's smooth and cool and calm, but he can care about certain things, and I'm not that type of guy.
Like what?
Like he think he cool. Like he think he cool, bro. But he is cool. But he think he cool.
He likes kind of like show off, kind of flashy.
But it's like it's real subtle, but it's cool.
Yeah.
But I know people growing up who thought they were a certain way too early and stopped developing. And when I hear him say things like, man, if that was me, I don't know what to do with it. Or if I had that speed, I don't know what I would have done with it. I think about it hit me because I knew what to do with it. I had the character to continue to improve, not look at things so high or the accomplishments and ride them lower than they were so I can keep working. So it works, man. It works. But I talk to both of them all the time. Now, when you ask what I had to overcome to personal things I had to overcome to really be the number one in the world so long.
Yeah.
I think about...
It's consistency, too. It's not like you were just like a one-race wonder.
Yeah, it was over a long time.
You won the first two golds in 2008, right?
Yeah.
And then when did you win the third one?
16.
Yeah, so it's 8 years later. You're
Yeah.
still able to. It was on the 400 meter as well.
4x4.
4x4.
I got third in the 4x. I got third in the 400 that year. But I was like number 2 in the world that year.
Within a period of 2008 to 2017, you're very consistent.
Right.
So back to what you were saying.
Yeah.
What was it? What you had to overcome to have this championship mindset for so long?
What do I had to overcome? I'm trying to think. I had to overcome. I'm trying to think what was going on. I really had to minimize stress. Right? The biggest thing, I had to minimize stress on and off the track. I stressed my mind and my body daily. And then with the rest and recovery being as important, just as important as the workouts, I had to get my rest. So anything off the track, the routine was just make sure I rest. But I had to overcome, there was a lot of times of being injured within that time span where...
Can we talk about you getting banned?
Yeah.
So what happened there?
Okay, so 2008, I won the Olympics.
Yeah.
2009, I win World Championships. The off season is September, October, November. So I'm 20. That's 2009. I'm 22, 23. Just won the Olympics. Just won World Championship. Off season, partying with friends.
Yeah.
I go to 7-Eleven and I get a lottery ticket.
Yeah.
And I get a pack of Extends, like a male enhancement pack.
Yeah.
Pills, boom, partying. People still at my house that night, that morning, I got a random drug test. And something in that pill ended up being on a ban list.
Yeah.
Never knew I could get something from 7-Eleven and it be on the ban list, bro. So a few weeks later, my agent called me and said, hey, look, you got a positive test on something. It's DHEA in your system. You need to figure out what this is and what you've been taking. I'm like, yo, I haven't been taking anything. It's off season. I haven't even been training.
Yeah.
I just been partying kind of and resting.
Yeah.
So she said, well, it's something that has DHEA in it. And I didn't know. I didn't connect it back to that at 7-Eleven, right? So she's like, well, you need to go to the barbershop. You need to figure out what you've been eating. No, something had DHEA in it. So I'm at the barbershop looking on the back of things, looking at the back of like razor shaving cream and soap. I'm like, okay, I don't know what this DHEA is.
Yeah.
And I go back to the 7-Eleven, go back to that aisle.
Yeah.
And I grab that pill. And the first ingredients was DHEA.
Yeah.
And I'm like, so I call my agent. I say, Miss Kim, I know exactly what it is. Mind you, at this time, they had put out that there was a cloud over my career. I was a disgrace to the sport.
Yeah.
I was on things that like hardcore steroids, comparing me to like people in the sport that has been busted for hardcore steroids.
Yeah.
So that was going on at the time that I found out it's this pill.
And what year is this?
It's 2009, off season of 2009. So I'm like, oh God, I'm embarrassed, ashamed, feel stupid to make that mistake because if you get banned, it's 2 years without pay. So I told her what it was. We ended up getting a lawyer. I had this arbitration hearing. At the time, it was a 2-year suspension for any thing that was on the list. But the rule was if you got suspended more than 6 months, you couldn't compete in the next championships.
Olympics.
Yeah.
Ugh.
So that was like, if I would have got banned for 2 years, that would have been bad for shoe company on my contract because they couldn't bet on me or
Yeah.
expect me to be in the next Olympics. So we have an arbitration hearing.
Yeah.
It's myself, my agent, my lawyer, my character witnesses, the lady from the 7-Eleven, versus USADA,
Yeah.
which is U.S. Anti-Doping Agency.
Right.
And we have these couple of days. They ask me all these questions. We go over all these things. And then at the end of it, they have the results, which was there was no intention to cheat.
Yeah.
There was no advantage gained. And my levels weren't elevated.
Yeah.
So basically, if I had ran a race or whatever the case, it wouldn't have been any advantage.
Yeah.
But it was on the list, so they had to suspend me. So they suspended me 2 years without pay, but said that I could run in the next Olympics. So they made that.
2012?
Yeah.
Okay.
So they made that.
But you lost your contracts.
Yeah.
Oh.
During that time, yes. So I had to come back 2000 so I set out 2010. 2011 I came back, which was a world championship year right before Olympic Games.
Yeah.
And the only and I was able to run world championship because I had won the last one.
Yeah.
No, because I won the last one. I had won 2009.
Yeah.
And the rule was if you won the last championship, you didn't have to compete to run in the next one.
Right.
So luckily I
Nice.
didn't even have to compete to get there.
Yeah.
So, but the time, and we missed a whole period, right? Because during that time, 2009, the end of 2009, training up until 2011, I couldn't compete, but I trained every day and ran competitions in training as if I had a season.
Yeah.
Now, people around me said I had some dark times where they came to my house and I didn't want to talk and
Yeah, what was it like under that suspension?
So
no pay, nothing?
It was darker before I knew that I could come back at a certain time.
Yeah.
When I didn't know if I was going to be able to run in the Olympics or not,
Yeah.
which was going to determine contract. It was a little dark, you know. It wasn't my existence. Track and field was what I did. I never dreamed about. I mean, I was in it and I felt bad. So obviously, I let a lot of people down in that moment. So I felt bad.
We don't need to dive into it too much, but what was like your greatest lesson from that whole experience?
Watch what I ingest, one.
Yeah.
For the sport. As a professional. As a professional, you need to be professional, and this was on the list. And watching what you take is part of the job.
Yeah.
So that was huge. Accountability.
What do you learn about yourself through that time? You probably spent a lot of time by yourself, thinking about things, whatever.
In that time, before I actually knew when I could come back, and I actually started training. Once I started training, it was get to where I need to be.
Yeah.
But before that, I feel like it was the people I had around me. You know, just kept pouring life into me and letting me know that, hey, I mean, you just got to wait. I mean, especially my dad.
Yeah.
My dad was right there beside me, just letting me know, hey, I'm here. This is not the end of the world.
Yeah.
And also my mom, hey, whatever happens, happens, and we just got to get through this. And it was more feeling like I let people down, but I knew I didn't do anything or intention to cheat in any type of way. So I couldn't let myself feel too guilty for something. It was just an honest mistake, and they kept that spirit around me.
Yeah.
So, but then I trained. When they would have competitions overseas, I would have to run certain time trials that way. When it was championship times, I would run 3 rounds in training.
Yeah.
And then that next year, I was diving with the guy. When I came back, I had 1 competition and then the world championship.
Yeah.
I was in Stockholm. And the only reason I ran that meet is because the meet director was like a pharmacist. And he knew that DHEA wasn't going to give me any type of advantage. So he let me run in his meet.
Nice.
Other people wouldn't at that time.
Yeah.
And I went there, I won. And then the next, like a week later, I had world championships. And
Yeah.
me and the guy was diving for that for first and second place. After that, I came back and started dominating.
Yeah. And then,
Then 2012 happened.
yeah.
2011, I'm diving at the line. 2012, come around. I say, I've been away from the sport. I'm back. I'm number 2 in the world right now. I got the fastest time in the world this season. 2011, 2012 come. I have an undefeated season. I win Olympic trials.
Yeah.
Headed into London. A couple weeks before London, I'm doing some fine tuning. I run a last meet in Monte Carlo and pulled a hamstring. 2 weeks before the Olympics. I was number 1 in the world. I was going on to be the second guy in history to win 2 Olympics back-to-back in that event and pulled a hamstring. And that was that. But then I came back in 13 and won. In 14, I had undefeated season.
The World Championships.
In 13.
Yeah.
In 14, I had an undefeated season. In 15, I got second. So
crushing it.
I learned a lot from that injury. You know, I built the body. I was able to break the body down and build it back up.
Yeah. We'll go for like a few more minutes. I don't want to take up too much of your time.
We got 30 minutes left on here.
Okay. Sounds good. Okay, so I want to sort of transition this. So you retire in 2017, right?
So 2016, I win Olympic trials, get to Rio, and I do well in the 400. I end up getting third. The guy ended up breaking the world record in the event. Yeah, that was something crazy.
This was in 2016.
2016.
Yeah.
A guy came, and I wouldn't say out the blue, but he kind of came out the blue.
Yeah.
And he was running well. I knew who this guy was.
He used those butterflies, man.
Something. The year before he came out, he started dominating. And in 2016, he just killed it.
Yeah.
And 17, I started getting plantar fasciitis.
What's that?
Where the bottom of my foot would get tight, and it would be so painful to just get out of bed. It's like this. The tightness of the bottom of the foot and the Achilles and this whole deal, right? So 17 was a world championship year, but I was injured, had plantar fasciitis. 18 was an off year as far as championship. 19 was world championship, but my foot is still bothering me. Yeah. I'm still training though, every year, having seasons, but and then 2020 COVID hit. And I think I got toe surgery in 2019. I got surgery. I was training hurt for those 2 years afterwards.
So you were still training during this time, so you didn't like officially retire?
I didn't retire. I didn't stop training until 2021.
Oh.
I didn't stop training until 2021.
So you still had this mindset that, hey, I can kind of keep competing.
I had this mindset of I can get back, but I had toe surgery. So I knew it was going to take time after the surgery with the just the inflammation and the scar tissue and everything. But I was still training daily. I was investing more money on rehab, training hurt. I had to be even more precise and careful with things than before. But I trained hurt every day. And I thought I was going, and every year my contract got cut because at one time if I wasn't top 3 in the world, my contract was getting cut.
Yeah.
Like,
No one cares about like the number 8 track and field guy.
you got to be number 3
Right.
in the world, or they
Yeah.
cut my contract.
Yeah, that's insane.
Yeah. So at this point, I wasn't producing because I couldn't train. Well, I couldn't train like I needed to. I was still out there getting in, but it was hurting. So then money getting cut and cut and cut, until the point I said, you know what, I need to focus on something else.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that was in 20. Then COVID pushed that next Olympics back a year because it was supposed to be 2020. Then it became 2021, and I had the surgery, and
I was like, no.
yeah, it was just too much. I was 34 at this point,
Yeah.
something like that. So I was
Getting up there.
yeah.
So now, what's the story been of your transition?
So I didn't know what I was going to do afterwards. You know, I really thought I was going to be able to focus on kids and family, my own kids and my own family after the sport.
You don't have kids
I
currently?
don't have kids, no.
Yeah.
So it didn't happen that way. So then it became, okay, what do I like? What do I want to do? I had a lot of things I could do, and a lot of people telling me things I could do based on that first chapter of life. But I put so much time in that, and it was really, my brother wasn't able to do anything. So I maximized that. Then when I finished, it was all about, okay, who am I?
Yeah.
So I feel like I went through this identity crisis of, okay, who am I? What do I like? What does it for me?
It's just a different kind of life when you've just been like training as an Olympic athlete for like your entire life, and like you just know to like train, or any athlete
Go
for
to
that
the
matter.
a routine. You have this routine that you're used to.
You get paid to basically perform, and that's how you spend your days training, and then it's like, whoa.
And resting.
Now this is how am I going to make a living outside of
Right.
doing all that?
Right. So it was, the big thing was, what do I love to do? If track and
Of course,
field wasn't
yeah.
something that I loved to the point where I want to be a coach and be around it that much, which I didn't feel that way. It was, okay, I need to figure out what I love. Now I need to figure out a job, some income too, but what do I love? So I took time just exploring different things. I had different business ventures I got into. Didn't find anything that I really loved. And then I started to think about,
What did you try?
real estate.
Shopify drop shipping.
No, I did some,
Amazon FBA.
I did some
Forex.
I did some real estate. I had already owned houses.
Yeah.
I have I own a trucking company.
Yeah.
Because in my city there's a big port, so the big rigs, all the work would come right there. So if you got any money there, you get the truck. So I had a trucking company before this, so I went back into that. I tried some option trading, started to learn a little bit about that. I put on camps. I didn't want to coach, so I did get into something that I knew and did a couple speed camps.
Yeah.
And just started going and talking to kids with extra time. And then I looked back and said, you know what? I need to do something bigger. I need to do something bigger. And then I started to think about how people saw what I did in the first chapter of life.
Yeah.
And instead of trying to reinvent something, like, respect and be grateful and acknowledge and appreciate the things and uniqueness of how I was able to handle for such a long period of time, and how I can inspire through how I have inspired people and gave hope, and how I can talk about those things on a stage and do the same thing.
Yeah.
So then it was, okay, I have experience speaking. Maybe I'm supposed to tell this story because it didn't mean that much to me while I was in it. But every time I talk about it, understand how it moves people. Then I started calling people and started getting interested in learning about the world of speaking to impact lives, change lives, generate income, and learn something new, and dive into the things that I didn't dive into while I was in the sport, and bring out those memories, man, and tell those stories, and continue to inspire and motivate.
Who is the person that got you into speaking? Or what was that? How did that come across? Like, oh, I should be a speaker. This could be a potential career path for me.
You know, I was looking at what I had experience with also. And my mom worked in the school system in Virginia.
Yeah.
And I've talked to kids all my life. I was always that person of character they would call on, the person who could inspire and had some accolades and actually did something and was a positive influence to kids. So I was always in the schools, always talking to teens or during, what they call them, like assemblies type of thing.
Yeah.
I was just having it's test time, they want me to come talk or whatever the case.
Yeah.
So I had experience doing that. I knew I wasn't afraid of being exposed on a stage.
Yeah.
You know, sport of track and field is people. There was a lot of people looking at you. There's no helmet. There's no team. So I'm comfortable being in front of people. I'm comfortable talking. I have a unique story. I feel like everybody has a story, but I have a unique story. I have some accomplishments that put me in the room.
Yeah.
You know, the accomplishments put me in the room. The character, the character piece of the story that I feel is really important. It can relate to the masses in real life. So thinking about experience, thinking about what I have and how I can serve and just change and give back to people and through my experience. My foundation, but that stage, you can pour into people. It gives me the ability to pour. And I'm not a teacher at all. I'm not the one to try to teach somebody something or anything. So I understand the uniqueness of it.
Yeah. What do you feel like is the ultimate impact you want to make through speaking? Like, let's say somebody, I know it depends on who you're talking to, but let's say you walk into a room full, you want to talk to a lot more entrepreneurs and business owners, right? That's the direction you want to take your career in. Let's say, you get into a room, you're speaking in front of, 100 entrepreneurs. What sort of impact do you want to make what sort of impact do you want to make during that speech?
And I haven't did one yet. I feel like the impact I would want to make is letting them know what it takes to be your best self. In jobs and in life, there's things you can do and ways you can be and ways you can think that'll put you in position to maximize your potential in whatever that is. So I feel like that message will be key in an arena of entrepreneurs, of the drive I had, and let them know they can be this way too. Not necessarily taking the same steps, but it takes this to get that. And I've been through it. I have stories on how I handle the ups and downs.
Yeah.
And
we've heard it during the episode,
Just having that positive inner voice and trying to challenge them to maximize their potential of life.
I think that's fantastic, man.
I appreciate it.
So, I have two more questions. The first one is going to be, what's the hardest thing that ever happened to you that turned out to be the greatest blessing?
In the sport?
Anything.
The hardest thing that ended up being the greatest blessing. The hardest thing that gave me that I feel was the greatest blessing.
Yeah.
This is hard to say. I'm going to give you two.
Okay.
The passing of my brother gave me so much purpose in life.
Mm-hmm.
Because many times I felt like I was living for two people, and I didn't mind the work load that it took. That was a hard time in life. Later on, I saw it was a blessing, and I'm still riding on it. I'm still riding that wave. You know, I was able to be inspired in sport with that. And now after the sport, I'm still inspired by it.
Yeah.
You know, sometimes I think...
I'm sure you inspired yourself by what you've been able to accomplish thus far.
I've inspired myself
Yeah.
by what I've been able to accomplish from him being the inspiration.
Yeah.
And within the sport, I feel like in the sport, the suspension was hard.
Yeah.
You know, during that time, and I came back and people were like, man, you shouldn't have got that. And I started running well right after that, and people welcomed me right back in.
Mm-hmm.
So that was a blessing in itself. But getting hurt in 2012 was tough. Monaco 2012, right before Olympic Games, I was #1 in the world.
Yeah.
Man, the pendulum was swinging my way. Yeah. Everything was on.
Yeah.
I was feeling great. I had just dove at the line. I just got back the year before and dove at the line after one meet and was #2 in the world, but the #1 time. So to me, I was #1 in the world, just that championship. I got second.
Yeah.
And I trained hard 2008. I trained hard 2012. Won Olympic trials. And when I got injured in Monte Carlo, that hit me hard. That hit me hard, man. I prepared so much for those games that year and wanting to be the second 400 guy to win back-to-back. It had never been done. It still hasn't been done. And I was on track. And it was a blessing because I got to break my body down. After I got injured, I really was able to break my body down and learn it even more. Yeah. And came back in 13 and I was an animal. 14, I was an animal. 15, I was an animal. Yeah. So it was a huge blessing for me. And the guy who actually won it, Karani James, good friend of mine, it was the first Olympic gold that country had ever gotten.
Oh, nice.
So I was happy about that.
I love it, man.
Yeah.
So, last question. Let's say, it's the end of your life. You're on your deathbed. You get to lead the world with 3 truths. 3 things that you know to be true about the world around you. What are they? It could take some time to think about this.
3 things to know to be true. I know that... I know that proper preparation prevents piss-poor performance. Proper preparation prevents piss-poor performance. I know that believing is achieving. You have to believe. You have to believe. And I know that I say hard work pays off, but I'm going to go deeper. I know that, I really know that character means everything. Character, the right character, good character will put you in rooms you never could imagine. Good character can make you accomplish things you never thought you could. And good character allows you to look yourself in the mirror and be okay with life.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know what else. I can think again. I can think about a lot, but...
No, I love it, man. It's great.
Yeah, man.
Yeah,
you got to prepare. I feel you got to prepare. Character matters. And I forgot what the third one was. The proper preparation.
There's preparation, character, and
What was the third one? I can't even remember.
the last one was character.
I can't remember what the second was.
Do you remember the second one, Brandon?
I went by it so quick. I said proper preparation, character, and it wasn't the hard work pay off. I said something else.
Oh yeah, it was.
I can't even remember. We'll rewind it back at some point. But I went through. I can't even remember. It's so much that comes to my head right now.
Yeah.
That I've learned. And everybody's different, man. I definitely know everybody's different. Consistency is key. Keeping great people around you to continue to speak life and pour into you.
Believing. It was about belief.
Believing is achieving.
Yeah. And believing
believe.
is probably seeing, right? People think seeing is believing. But I think in your life, believing is really seeing. What do you feel about that?
When I think about believing is achieving, I feel like being that one, the preparation is key. You have to believe in the preparation, to be able to line up when it's time to execute, whether it be running a race or taking a test.
Yeah.
You have to have the proper preparation to be able to believe when it's time to run a race or take a test, and that's the preparation, the believing.
Yeah.
And what was the last one?
It was preparation, believing is achieving, and having
and have a great character. Yeah. And that great character allows you to continue to have people of character around you to keep pouring into you so you can keep doing things, and then you can have the attitude of gratitude and be humble and handle business.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, I want to acknowledge you for sharing all the amazing wisdom and all of that. And yeah, dude, I'm stoked that we're friends and that you came to Orange County and we're doing this whole thing. So, yeah.
Yes, sir.
Sweet.
I even got I can pull out a couple of medals to put on the thing. Too. Back to the Olympic Committee. And you see how they're all like tarnished and everything, and mine are dented because, I mean, when you have more than one, they dent together when you put them on, so that's not a bad problem, but they look bad. So
well, I'll wear one if you don't mind.
Yeah, no problem. Or we can hold one up. You want one?
I'll hold one up. That's gonna be a great picture.
Yes, man.
You should be holding up the gold, bro. I should be wearing the bronze.
Okay, 1, 2, 3. Dope. I took a bunch.
Yeah,
Nice.
man. That's it, man. That's some good segments in there that can just be chopped up for some talking here and there.
Dude, absolutely. There's so many things in